I'm Michael Bussey. I'm one of the original co-founders of Exodus International. I left the program in 1979 and have since reconciled my spirituality and my sexuality. Now I'm a vocal critic of reparative therapy programs and of Exodus International. That initial experience of repressing the feelings and experiencing them less often is taken as a sign of change. And that lasts for some time. For me, it lasted for about 2 years. At the same time, I started developing feelings, deeper feelings for Anne, my fiance. I really struggled with whether or not to get married. I didn't want to enter into it lightly or ill-advisedly. I didn't want to deceive myself or deceive her. So I really struggled for a long time about whether or not to tell her the extent of my gay feelings. I was sure that she'd break up with me if I did. But I finally did, and was surprised by her response, because she said that she also believed that I could change and that she would pray and that together we would conquer this thing. I was also surprised that I found romantic feelings toward her. I remember reading when I was younger that if you were truly gay, you couldn't fall in love with a woman. That was how you knew that you were gay. And here I found myself falling in love with her. I was fascinated by her. I was attracted to her spirit and to her intellect and to the way she approached life. Had a beautiful voice, beautiful eyes. She became my best friend, and I mistook those feelings as a sign of heterosexuality. Not just that she was a lovely person, but that I was becoming straight. So I had the first stage, the lessening of the libido. The second stage, developing romantic feelings toward her. Exodus calls those feelings spousosexual rather than heterosexual. You ask them, well, do you develop feelings toward women in general or just toward one special woman? And usually they'll say one special woman. They call that spousosexuality. They want to include it in the list of orientations. They've actually suggested that it is a new sexual orientation, spousosexual, where you don't have feelings toward anybody else but your spouse. And if that's the way God intended it from the beginning anyway, Adam was only supposed to lust after Eve and nobody else. So the fact that I only had feelings toward my fiancée, I was told, was a good thing and proof that this should do. Then of course came having to prove it to myself. Was I capable of actually being involved with her sexually? And even though you're not supposed to experiment premaritally if you're a good Christian boy, he did. And I was surprised that I was capable of response, that I could feel sexual excitement. People said, well, that proves that you're bisexual. And I really don't think so. What they didn't realize is that I was having to fantasize about males to feel that arousal. It always had to be both. So it wasn't true heterosexuality. I never really was attracted to women in general, or even to her specifically, which was sad, because I think it's something that the spouse deserves, to be loved, body, soul, and spirit. But we thought that would come. We thought that with time, the sexual feelings would develop and it would deepen. It goes back to that name it and claim it theology that Exodus was based on. The idea that if you believe something strong enough and claim it in the name of Jesus, it will happen. And the logic is, well, since God created us heterosexual, since heterosexuality is the default orientation, that all we really have to do is claim it in His name that we are straight, start behaving in a straight manner, give up gay sex and gay identification, and that latent heterosexuality would bloom. Well, after years of marriage, it didn't bloom. It still wasn't there. And I remember the pain of listening to Anne cry herself to sleep many nights, wondering what was wrong with her as a woman, what was wrong with her faith. Maybe she wasn't a good enough wife. Maybe she wasn't praying hard enough. that not enough message is really pervasive, both for the man who's going through it, you don't have enough faith, you didn't try hard enough, you didn't want to do enough, but also for the spouses, that they aren't doing enough. There's something inadequate about them, emotionally, physically, spiritually. They're deficient in some way. And I think she struggled with that for many years, even after we divorced. She didn't date or remarry until more than 20 years later. It had that devastating an impact on her sense of being okay as a heterosexual woman.